I'm fairly confident that current hardware cannot be conscious. Well, trivially, everything is conscious because the universe is a gigantic field of consciousness. But there is a difference between what you could call kind of like mind dust, which I think is like our computers, versus like minds, like actual minds. So the difference between the brain and a computer is that the brain is actually putting that qualia together into unified experiences that have top-down effects. They have causal, holistic effects. Whereas the computer, it's all 100% bottom up. Like a GPU is just looking at the local connections. It's not looking at long-range connections. It's not looking at electromagnetic resonance. The field is not feeding back into the low-level operations. And as such, it's in some sense, like something that doesn't have the capacity for a large scale pattern to feed back into what is happening at the low level. And so like, anything you can point at as like, oh, this is a large scale pattern, it's epiphenomenal. It doesn't have like further causal effects, over and above what you already know. Whereas, things such as electromagnetic resonance, holistic field behavior, that's a very different type of, computational architecture or even aesthetic, like way of thinking of computation. That said, for better or worse, I do think we will be able to create conscious systems in the future, probably as early as a few decades into the future. And I do worry a lot about that. I mean, like, there's a lot of like ethical things that have to be worked out there, such as how to make sure that if we build sentient systems, that they're actually animated by gradients of bliss, or like that they're like actually happy. We don't want like a kind of like a super factory farm scenario where we're creating a bunch of sentient machines and then enslaving them for our benefit without taking care of them, like, which would probably happen by default given incentives and our level of philosophical sophistication and empathy. And so we have to act now to prevent that scenario, actually.
That's why we're trying to get the word out there about raising consciousness.
Yes.
So to just summarize that, just so I understand clearly, like the current way that these models are built and our computers are configured, they're just not set up for an AI to be truly conscious. It's more like just almost like it's a simulation of something that appears to be conscious based on it's just a capacity that is novel and that we're not used to. But it wouldn't be able to kind of feel and reason and come up with kind of like completely adjacent concepts and ideas that it hadn't been exposed to. Is that, am I off?
Well, the large language models and the AIs that are going to be coming up pretty soon, I do think there will be, like, for example, superhuman in creativity. Like they will be capable of connecting things that have meaningful relationships that we are missing on. I don't think it is going to be a case where like, well, they're going to be bottlenecked on some key capabilities that will make them incompetent or anything of the sort. Insentient systems, I think, can be extremely dangerous. I am currently of the thinking that like AI is actually super dangerous, especially very advanced AI. The AI in 5-10 years might be really problematic in some ways, but it doesn't have subjective experience, so there are some things it just doesn't know about and can't answer. I mean, like, for example, there's really nothing meaningful that Claude 3 Opus or GPT-4 can really tell you about DMT experiences. It can kind of like guess, it can make correlations, it can talk about how other people talk about DMT, but if you ask, okay, like if you go to the chrysanthemum level and you do a jhana meditation, like what happens? It just has no idea, obviously, because it just has no access to those states of consciousness. That to some extent is a little bit of a safeguard. And there is kind of like a very wild possible timeline where the way in which we become smarter than AI is essentially by something like recruiting DMT states of consciousness for hypercomputation. It's a very tall order, but it is the sort of thing where like we will continue to have like an advantage over systems. But things such as like military strategy or diplomacy and things like that, no, AIs will be really powerful, unfortunately.